Hello, my name is Patrick Smith, and I am your host facilitator for this webinar session, which is Resources, the fourth in the 5 pillars of mentoring. During this session, we will consider what are resources, knowledge as a resource, and we will also take a look at the 6 qualities of resourcefulness. Resources are important because they are part of several elements that are critical to the success of any venture. Furthermore, they are a critical component of any successful mentoring relationship. If you are not knowledgeable of resources that are critical to the business success, it will harm your credibility as a mentor. You must be aware of and be able to direct your mentee toward those resources essential for their business to succeed. Also, resource information is a critical link between your mentee's goals and their organization's performance. So what are resources? What resources enable one's business to be successful? Which are the most important? Take a look at the following list. Now, these may not all be exhaustive. However, there are some on here that you may need to consider as a part of helping your business mentee succeed in their venture. Having a strong understanding of what resources are and having a knowledge of those resources are extremely important. Here are a few definitions. Take a moment, look at the definitions, and see which ones apply to you. Based upon the definitions given, as a mentor, again, which ones apply to you? As a mentor, in what ways have you served as a resource for your mentee? And what resources have you helped your mentee to utilize or take advantage of? Take a moment to think about it. The key to being a strong resource for your mentee is knowledge. That is to say, having an awareness of the available resources located within various environments that are essential for business success. Knowledge is ultimately what allows one to be resourceful. Knowledgeable mentors are resourceful and are able to guide and help their mentees develop essential qualities that are critical for this skill set. So, what qualities contribute to resourceful mentors? Take a moment to think about this question. Resourcefulness is the ability to achieve your goal or to make one. As an expert, how can you effectively help your mentee develop qualities of resourcefulness? Another way of asking the question is, how can you convey these same qualities to your mentee so that they can apply them in the context of their business? How have these qualities contributed to your own success as an entrepreneur? Ingenuity is one of the greatest qualities you can possess as a mentor. Ingenuity is a quality which entails cleverness, originality, and inventiveness. Take a look at the questions that are listed and answer them faithfully. If your startup was facing a challenge or lacked needed resources, how would you overcome it? In what ways could your mentee accommodate for the lack of resources? These are also questions you should even ask your mentee. How do you encourage your mentee to use their imagination and creativity to find a way around or over these obstacles? That is to say, the obstacles that they face. As a mentor, what processes or strategies do you employ to get your mentee to think creatively? How do you guide your mentee in making vital connections to those essential networks that will help to overcome certain challenges? What may those challenges be? Creativeness can also be seen in other areas of resourcefulness. Out of necessity, many business entrepreneurs have invented or solved problems based upon certain needs or circumstances. The need to communicate provided the incentive to invent devices which provided the means for it. As a mentor, you will need to be able to help your business mentee explore possibilities that will lead to their success. If your mentee has a challenge, in what ways would you help them to think about solving the problem? Ask yourself, what makes a person tenacious? How has having a tenacious quality contributed to your own success as an entrepreneur? What makes a person tenacious is taking action on one's vision and goals and staying the course. You must encourage your mentee to place high priority in planning, periodic assessment, and following up on their vision and goals. Remember, never give up. For consideration, you should be able to help your mentee in these areas. Are you effective in doing so? The key to being a strong resource simply is this. As a business mentor, how knowledgeable are you of the resources in your business environment? Very knowledgeable? Somewhat knowledgeable? Not knowledgeable at all? As a mentor, how knowledgeable are you of your mentee's resource needs? Very knowledgeable, somewhat knowledgeable, or not knowledgeable at all? Remember, knowledge is power. Remember, good coaches and mentors are knowledgeable of essential resources, are aware of the resource needs of their mentee, and are able to help their mentee develop resourceful qualities. These qualities include ingenuity, creativity, inventiveness, problem solving, imagination, and tenacity. Mentors empower their mentees by helping them to develop those qualities. As a mentor, you will need to be versatile in the ways in which you can help your mentee to grow and develop within their business. In addition, mentors must be persistent, the message focused, they must be versatile and imaginative in how they deliver their message, and they must be inspiring to their mentees. Now let's take a moment to look at the video as we wrap up, and let's see what the participants had to say during the Jobs Mentorship Workshop. Resources. Take a couple of minutes. I think we all know what the definition of a resource. You yourself should see yourself as a resource. But talk to yourselves. Talk to each other at the table. Just take a couple of minutes. Who do you turn to for counseling, financial advice, marketing advice? Now, Dr. Brandon talked about being able to address the needs of your protege from a very wide spectrum, wide perspective. In other words, what I take from that is you're either a jack of all trades or you wear many hats. Sometimes you might have to talk with a person about some psychological challenges. Now, not that you're a psychologist or psychiatrist, but you should be able to console them when it comes to however it impacts their business. You should be able to console them or refer them to resources. From an educator's perspective, I train my peer mentors, they have to be resourceful. If they have to be able to identify if a student or one of their proteges is suffering possibly from depression, if they're not sleeping well, if they're not eating, if they're looking unkempt, if they look frazzled all the time. And in the American context, sometimes students get up and when they go to class, they don't even dress, they don't even shower sometimes. Not all, but sometimes, that's the truth. And they go to class in their pajamas. It has happened. It has happened. And so, there are certain signs when students are going through challenges. And so my peer mentors are trained to be able to identify these things and then refer them. We call it CAPS on our campus, Counseling Psychological Services. But being able to refer them to resources. So my question is to you, Do you have a resource list? Do you know the resources of your particular craft, your business, that your proteges would need to access for any of these purposes? And this is not all inclusive. So I think I think I'll just let that simmer with you. But at some point today, I think you all should share, because you may have access to resources that the other does not. Yes.
Just before we go on to this, we were just describing all the characteristics that a mentor should have, but you haven't described any characteristics of the mentee. And I think too that the way a mentor operates depends a lot on the characteristics of a mentee. If you have a mentee who is going to embrace things that advice then versus one who is lazy and indisciplined, then I think the way you approach them has to be a little different.
That's true. That's true. That's a very good point. We haven't discussed that. Maybe that's for another workshop. But if you had, go ahead.
Just making a comment on communication, and you listed to be clear and concise things that the mentor must do, and explaining in relative terms and passing the information. Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, good. Sorry, right. We were dealing with communication, and all the emphasis seemed to be on the mentor, being clear and concise in relative terms, don't assume confidentiality on the part of the mentor, suppressing your ego, and I think not much emphasis is played on the mentee. In other words, communication is two-way, being empathetic, that sort of thing.
Right.
So much is mentioned about in communication about the mentor, and not that much relevance is given to the other side.
Right. Thank you.
What's coming back from the mentee?
Right. You're right. It is a two-way process, and that's the second comment. So that tells me that's a deficiency in this presentation. So that means it's probably warrants some comment. And I was going to kind of get to that in the next phase. However, you're absolutely right. I can't say you're wrong. You're absolutely right. Now, when you have a mentee who's not motivated, is not innovative, doesn't want to take the initiative, lazy as it was stated, now you have to determine whether or not at some point whether the relationship is worth your time. Because I can see hand-holding a person and bringing them along if they want to be a team player. But if they want you to do all the work, that's problematic. Yeah. You are absolutely right. Communication, it is a two-way street. It's two ways, it's give and take, and as a matter of fact, from the mentor standpoint, you have to be willing to learn as much as you want to, in the coaching frame, teach and impart, because of the learning process for you as well. Thank you for bringing that up. So the lesson in this, you need to know who or where to turn to when you need help. Because if you can't do that, if you can't do that, how can you be a resource for your protege? Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed the module. Once again, I'm Patrick Smith, and I will see you next time.